My dad used to have an expression. You don't measure success on whether or not you've been knocked down. It's how quickly you get back up, because everybody gets knocked down. The measure is getting back up. That's the story of this country. It has never failed to get back up.
Joe is salt of the earth. He's somebody who hasn't forgotten the people in those communities where he grew up.
People in my neighborhood don't like the phrase working class. The guys I grew up with, their mothers mostly didn't work back in those days, and their fathers didn't go to college, but they were proud. And if you asked them what they were middle class.
My dad tells it like it is. From the time he was a kid in Scranton, who people made fun of because he stuttered, to a young man who gets elected to the United States Senate when he was 29 years old, starts a campaign no one thought they could win.
The thing that I'm proudest of is the fact that the people in the state of Delaware have elected me 6 times in a row because I think they believe I haven't lost their voice.
My dad experienced great triumph along with my family, but also great tragedy. Losing my mom and my sister in an automobile accident that my brother and I survived. What my dad did then was he came to my bedside and my brother's, and he's never left it.
When Joe was just elected, he made the commitment to take the train every single day to be home with the children. And no matter where he is or what he's doing, if one of the children call, he stops and takes the call.
I had 4 children. I lost one, but I have 3 lovely children. They're each other's best friends.
He's a wonderful father. He's an exceptional grandfather. And that's really what it's about for him.
There are very few people who have the depth of experience of Joe Biden, not only as the head of the Judiciary Committee, as the head of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, but he's also been at the forefront on critical legislation.
The things I'm most proud of in my career are writing and passing the Violence Against Women Act. We brought down violent crime with the crime bill that I drafted.
Joe has unequaled foreign policy credentials. He's consulted with presidents, has personal relationships with many world leaders. He's somebody who, on the Iraq War, was willing to speak out, and when he saw that the Bush administration wasn't using that authority properly.
When you see the abuse of power, you've got to speak. Whether it's a parent slapping around a child, or a president taking a nation to war that cost lives that was not a necessary war. That's abuse of power.
Joe is truly a leader, and I think he has such strength of character. I think people know that they can believe in him. They know that he wants change, and I think they know that the country will change with Barack Obama and Joe Biden.
The most important thing that Joe offers is his honesty. And I can't imagine a more effective advocate in the vice presidency to bring about the changes that we need here in America.
The middle class in this country has never been as unsure of their future, and we've never been as isolated. And if we don't change that in the next 4 years, we're locked in for a decade. And Barack Obama has been very explicit about how he's going to level the playing field for the firemen and the cops and the linemen and the salespersons and the nurses to improve their circumstance so their next generation is better off than they were. I think Barack and I will work as a team great. I can hardly wait to help him turn this country around.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Delaware Attorney General, Captain Beau Biden.
Good evening. I'm Beau Biden, and Joe Biden is my dad. Many of you know him as a distinguished and accomplished senator. I know him as an incredible father and a loving grandfather, a man who hustled home to Delaware after the last vote so he wouldn't miss me and my brother's games, who after returning from some war-torn region of the world would tiptoe literally into our rooms and kiss us goodnight, who turns down some fancy cocktail party in Washington so he won't miss my daughter Natalie's birthday. The truth is, he almost wasn't a senator at all. In 1972, shortly after his improbable victory, but before he took the oath of office, my father went to Washington to look at his new office space. My mom took us to go buy a Christmas tree. On the way home, we were in an automobile accident. My mom, Nelia, and my sister, Naomi, were killed. My brother, Hunter, and I were seriously injured and hospitalized for weeks. I was just short of 4 years old. One of my earliest memories was being in that hospital, my dad always at our side. We, my brother and I, not the Senate, were all that he cared about. He decided not to take the oath of office. He said then, Delaware can get another senator, but my boys can't get another father. However, great men like Ted Kennedy, Mike Mansfield, Hubert Humphrey, men who have been tested in their own right, convinced him to serve. He was sworn in the hospital at my bedside. As a single parent, he decided to be there, to put us to bed, to be there when we woke up from a bad dream, to make us breakfast. So he traveled to and from Washington 4 hours a day. 5 years later, we, my brother, dad, and I married my mom, Jill. And they together rebuilt our family. And 36 years later, he still makes that trip. So even though Dad worked in Washington, he's never been part of Washington. He always sounded like the kid from Scranton, Pennsylvania that he is. And even that is a story of overcoming. Now, some people poke fun at my dad talking too much. What a lot of people don't know, though, is that when he was a young boy, he had a severe stutter. The kids called him Dash, not because he was fast on the football field, which he was, but like a dash at the end of a sentence you can't finish. But now he speaks with a clear and strong voice. He says what needs to be said, and he does what needs to be done. When domestic violence was often a dark secret, Dad wrote the Violence Against Women Act, which gave countless women the protection and support and protection and a new chance at life. When crime was spiking in our communities, Dad wrote the crime bill that put 100,000 cops on our streets and led to an 8-year drop in the crime across America. And when Serbian thugs were committing genocide in the Balkans, Dad didn't hesitate to call Slobodan Milosevic a war criminal to his face, and to convince Congress and our allies to act. He's willing to speak truth to power, to the White House and to world leaders. I know my father will be a great vice president. As I mentioned, my dad has always been there for me, my brother, my sister, every day. But because of other duties, it won't be possible for me to be here this fall, to stand by him the way he stood by me. So I have something to ask of you. Be there for my dad, like he was for me. Be there for Barack Obama, because our country needs him. Be there for both of them, because millions of families need to know that their best days aren't behind them, but are ahead of them. Be there for both of them, because millions of people are trying to overcome just like my dad overcame. Be there. Be there because Barack Obama and Joe Biden will deliver America the change we so desperately need. Please join me in welcoming my friend, my father, my hero, the next Vice President of the United States, Joe Biden.